What is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going over my top 12 ranked tight ends for the 2022 fantasy football season, as well as for your fantasy football best ball drafts. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my top 12 ranked tight ends. So we're to begin at number 1, and in my opinion, I think 99.99999% of people are going to have the same number 1 tight end in fantasy football. At running back, it seems like everyone has the same number 1 running back, but tight end is really the one position where it seems like basically everyone and their mother has the same number 1 ranked tight end, and that is going to be Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, is it a lock, mortal lock of the century, that Travis Kelce finishes as the best tight end in 2022? I don't think so. But I would be shocked, unless there was an injury, if Travis Kelce was not a top 3 tight end in fantasy football. Travis Kelce has been so consistent over the last couple of seasons, and that is why in a lot of drafts last year, we were seeing Travis Kelce go pick 8, pick 9, towards the end of the first round, because of that consistency that he brings to a position that is very inconsistent. Now, Travis Kelce seems like the locked and loaded number 1 tight end for fantasy football. Again, there is still a chance that he doesn't finish as the number 1 overall guy, but I'm pretty confident that in a majority of drafts, he is going to be the first tight end taken off the board. Now, the biggest change between last year and this year in 2022, when you're looking to project what could happen for Travis Kelce, is that Tyreek Hill is gone. Now, they have replacements for Tyreek Hill. They've brought other receivers in. They're going to potentially draft a new wide receiver in the NFL draft just a couple of days from now on Thursday. Maybe not in the first round, but this weekend maybe, just during the draft. So maybe they don't draft a first-round wide receiver, but it seems like they might want to draft a wide receiver. So regardless of who they put there, that person is not going to be Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is a 1 and a bazillion player. No one in the NFL is Tyreek Hill. The speed is unreal. So now he's gone. You take that out of the equation. Now, again, they're going to put someone there to fill his role, but they're not going to be able to be Tyreek Hill. So Travis Kelce, based upon the roster they have right now, and even if they draft a rookie, I believe at least this year, there is a pretty solid chance that Travis Kelce has the most targets at the wide receiver or tight end position on the team. In 2021, in 16 games played, Travis Kelce finished as the number 2 tight end in half PPR and the number 2 tight end in half PPR points per game. He had 135 targets, 8.4 per game, ranking second at tight end, 92 receptions, 5.8 per game, number 2 at tight end, 1,125 receiving yards, 70.3 per game, number 2 at tight end, and 10 total touchdowns, number 1 at the tight end position. So in 2021, with Tyreek Hill there, Travis Kelce dominated. He's dominated in the past with Tyreek Hill there. Now, could Tyreek Hill being gone technically hurt Travis Kelce? Because now Travis Kelce is the bona fide number 1 target on the team. So that could definitely do damage to Travis Kelce, because now the defense is going to be more keen on putting their best player on Travis Kelce. That is entirely possible. But it is also possible that now Travis Kelce is just getting force-fed the ball at a higher rate. Travis Kelce has the skill set to whether he gets 135 targets exactly like last year or gets 170 targets, which would be fucking insane, but you get what I'm saying, gets a huge uptick in targets to be the best tight end in fantasy football. He doesn't necessarily need a ridiculous amount of targets with the team that he is on, with the quarterback that he has, with the skill set that he possesses to be the number 1 guy. So Travis Kelce is going to be my number 1 tight end. Maybe Mark Andrews, the guy that's my number 2 tight end, could pass him. Could be the number 1 guy. Mark Andrews was the number 1 guy last year, so that wouldn't surprise me. But I think when it comes to safety at the tight end position, when you Google safe tight end to draft in fantasy football, a picture of Travis Kelce should show up, because he has been the definition of safety over the last couple of years. And I think with the loss of Tyreek Hill, that could even help out Travis Kelce more. At number 2, we move to Mr. Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens in 2021. He played in all 17 games, finishing as the tight end number 1 in half PPR and the tight end number 1 in half PPR points per game. game. He had 154 targets, 9.1 per game. First at tight end, 107 receptions, 6.3 per game. Number 1, 1,361 receiving yards, 80.1 per game. Number 1, and 9 total touchdowns. Number 2 at tight end. So Mark Andrews overall had a fantastic season with quarterback woes for the team, right? Because Lamar Jackson was hurt, and we're seeing other quarterbacks play for the Baltimore Ravens, and regardless of who was in, Mark Andrews was still leading. He was still leading. So, was he better with or without Lamar? To me, that is an argument that you don't even really need to bring up, because it's very clear that when he is healthy, a lot like Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews might be the number 1 option on the Baltimore Ravens. He just is. He just is. They have Hollywood Brown. They have these other players that have this high upside in fantasy football, in best ball, but none of them are going to command the amount of target share in an offense or in that offense like Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is just uber talented like that. We've seen Mark Andrews have a very strong career thus far, and I believe he is going to add on to that in 2022 by having another fantastic season. One of the biggest debates in fantasy football is when to draft a tight end. When should you draft a tight end? Now, this is going to change from draft to draft, but in my opinion, typically, I'm not the guy that pulls the trigger on in the first round on Travis Kelce. That's just not my game. I'd much rather wait till the end of the second round, in the middle of the third round, and draft Mark Andrews. And if I don't get Mark Andrews, then maybe I will be fine drafting tight end 3 or 4. But after that, I kind of just saying, now we're punting the position. We're going to wait till way later to draft a tight end. That is my philosophy on drafting tight ends. Everyone's strategy is going to be different, and every draft is different, because while I say, hey, I might not want to draft Travis Kelce because he's the first tight end off the board, and I think the difference between him and Mark Andrews is very minimal, in some drafts, Travis Kelce might not get drafted in the first round, right? He may fall even further, and then in that case, the argument I made was stupid. So when I say these things, I always try to make you guys understand that in certain situations, while I might say that I don't want to draft Travis Kelce because he goes so high, he could fall in drafts, and then I'd be very excited to get Travis Kelce. So number 2, we got Mark Andrews. Again, with Lamar Jackson fully healthy, I really do believe Mark Andrews could easily be the number 1 tight end in fantasy football for back-to-back seasons. Typically in fantasy football, regardless of the position, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, it is very difficult for any player of any of those positions to keep that crown, to be the number 1 guy in back-to-back years. But while I say that, that doesn't mean you shouldn't draft Mark Andrews. You shouldn't rank Mark Andrews highly. It's just a stat, but, stats can be broken, right? Mark Andrews could easily go back-to-back years as the number 1 guy. Just thought I should bring that up. So before we move on into my number 3 ranked tight end, I'd like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over on Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is known for their NFL best ball tournaments. However, Underdog doesn't stop there. Underdog has plenty of other contests for you to compete in, including live draft contests and pick'ems in which you can make up to 20 times your entry fee. Use promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, to get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. Please make sure that you guys do want to go ahead and get started on Underdog Fantasy today. Again, promo code AWESEMO, or just click the link in the video description. Just clicking that link will just input the code for you, so you don't even have to do it. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. At number 3, we have Darren Waller, tight end of the Las Vegas Raiders. In 2021, Darren Waller played in 11 games, finishing as the tight end number 18.5 PPR, but he was the tight end number 6.5 PPR points per game, tied with TJ Hawkinson, meaning that when he was healthy, he was an upper echelon tight end. He had 93 targets last year, 8.5 per game, ranking 8th at tight end, 55 receptions, 5.0 per game, 15th at tight end, 665 receiving yards, 60.5 per game, 11th at tight end, and 2 total touchdowns, 35th at tight end. Now, that argument that I just made about Travis Kelce, about how now that Tyreek Hill is gone, that is going to potentially give Travis Kelce more opportunity to catch the ball, get more targets, but there's also the potential drawback of now that Tyreek Hill is gone, that the defense keys in on Travis Kelce a lot more. Now, Darren Waller, they gain Davante Adams. Is that going to help or hurt Darren Waller? What it could do is lessen Darren Waller's targets, but make Darren Waller a better target on the field, because the best DB is always going to be on fucking Davante Adams. So now Darren Waller is put in a very favorable position to play well, especially with Hunter Renfrow there as well. So I think you can. That's the problem with some of these arguments, right? Because you can say one thing for Travis Kelce, oh, this is great now that Tyreek Hill's gone. But then Darren Waller gains Devontae Adams, a freak fucking wide receiver, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And then you can make the opposite argument about how, oh, now that Devontae Adams is there, that's actually better for Darren Waller. So there's definitely ways to look at each situation differently. In my opinion, I really do think that Devontae Adams will 100% help out the touchdown category for Darren Waller. I think Darren Waller's touchdowns at just 2 last year is way too fucking low, and that is bound to bounce back. And as long as he's able to stay healthy, I think Derek Carr is a pretty solid quarterback, and I think Darren Waller should thrive in Viva Las Vegas this year. My tight end number 3. At number 4, we move to George Kittle Me Timbers, tight end of the San Francisco 49ers. In 2021, he played in 14 total games, finishes the tight end number 4.5 PPR and the tight end number 4.5 PPR points per game. He had 95 targets, 6.8 per game, 0.1 off of being very nice. I like with 6.9, number 7 at tight end, 71 receptions, 5.1 per game, 6th at tight end, 910 receiving yards, 65.0 per game, and 6 total touchdowns, 7th at tight end. So George Kittle, despite being a guy that I was kind of down on last year, like, it just seems like he keeps getting injured. He can't play a full season, and the 49ers aren't necessarily the most ideal team. There was a lot of questions about, is it going to be Jimmy G-Spot, Jimmy Pornstar, Jimmy Guap, Jimmy Garoppolo playing a lot of the games? Was it going to be Trey Lance? And that kind of just swayed me off of George Kittle. Now, I wasn't low on George Kittle, telling you guys not to draft George Kittle, but I wasn't sky high on George Kittle. I just wasn't. I wasn't excited about George Kittle, and he played well. So that's great. That's fantastic. But now we're in 2022. There's a lot of talk about Deebo Samuel wanting out. Wanting out. Now, while he might want out right now, it's not a locked and loaded thing that he's just going to get traded. It's not set in stone that his ass is going to be gone in the next couple of weeks, that he's going to be gone by the start of the season. I think there is a pretty solid chance that Deebo Samuel suits up for the 49ers with a brand new contract at the start of the season. I think there's a pretty good chance of that happening. Now, how does Deebo Samuel being there or not being there affect George Kittle? Who knows? Because there's going to be a whole new quarterback there. Trey Lance is going to be the quarterback for the whole season. Now, Trey Lance did get a little bit of time last year to play, but it's not like he has a 12, 13, 14 game sample size of games to look at. So George Kittle is going to be in a situation with a new quarterback. Now, maybe they keep Jimmy Garoppolo. It seems like, based upon everything that I read, that Jimmy Garoppolo, even if he's on the team, is going to be riding the bench for Trey Lance. So even if Garoppolo's still there, Lance is the guy. It seems like everyone is pointing to the fact that Lance is the guy there. So my expectation is that Trey Lance is going to be the starting quarterback. George Kittle is going to be there. And Deebo Samuel may or may not be there. May or may not be there. George Kittle would be in another scenario where if Deebo Samuel's gone, where he is by far and away the best target on this team. Brandon Ayuk, maybe he ends up being great. Maybe he ends up being great, but he has not shown us that. And the team, Kyle Shanahan, hasn't shown me that he even believes in Brandon Ayuk. So based upon everything that we know right now, I'm in another scenario where I'm not banging the drum for George Kittle, just like last year. But this year, I'm not going to just be not really looking at him. I'm just going to be like, you know what? If George Kittle is there where he should be going, I'm fine taking him. I think Trey Lance is going to be the guy, and I think Deebo Samuel is going to be there. I think George Kittle is a very talented tight end. The biggest issue with him compared to all these other guys is all of them can block, sure, but George Kittle is so prolific at blocking that while that's excellent for George Kittle as a player, that sucks for fantasy because, and the team's also a lot more run-heavy. They are by far and away the most run-heavy team that I've talked about. Travis Kelce, the Chiefs, they're not a run-heavy team. The Ravens, kind of run-heavy, but not as much as the 49ers, the Raiders, same thing. So George Kittle is technically speaking, like, if you want a guy to get 1 million targets, I just don't think San Francisco is where you do that, but George Kittle has still been successful aside from that, so no real hate on George Kittle here, just not super excited for him. At number 5, we have Kyle Pitts, and this is the point in the rankings where, look, these guys are my top 4, right? Kelce, Andrews, Waller, Kittle. After this, if you say, Nick, Kyle Pitts isn't tight end 5, he's tight end 11, and I want Dawson Knox to be my tight end 5, I'm not going to argue. In Atlanta, there's no Calvin Ridley. But they don't have Matt Ryan. They have Marcus Mariota. And I don't like Marcus Mariota. 2021 stats for Mr. Pitts in his rookie year. Everyone put so much weight into this guy. Everyone was banging the fucking drums. Kyle Pitts this. Kyle Pitts that. I love Kyle Pitts. That's what people are saying. And last year I said, calm your titties a little bit on Kyle Pitts. Not saying that he can't be great, but calm down a little bit. Calm the fuck down, because Kyle Pitts may not be this upper echelon guy in his first year. Does that mean that Kyle Pitts is a bust? No. But I don't think he's going to be that excellent in his first year. And what did we see? Tight end 7 in half PPR. Tight end 11 in half PPR points per game, which isn't bad. But when you put all of these hopes, all of these basically dreams that this guy is going to be just amazing, like out of this water, like maybe he could be better than Travis Kelce is what people are talking about, then you're setting the fucking guy up to fail. This year, I think that heightened expectations are lower. I think people are tempering their expectations now, but still, I think people might even still be too high on him. I think tight end 5 might even be a little too high for him, but it's hard to rank him lower because of the pure skill the guy's got. So tight end 7.5 PPR, tight end 11.5 PPR points per game. He had 110 targets, 6.5 per game. Number 5 at tight end, 68 receptions, 4 per game. 7th, 1,026 receiving yards, 60.4 per game. 3rd, and 1 total touchdown, 48th at tight end. This man hasn't even scored a touchdown in a regular season game in the United States yet at the NFL level. His only touchdown came in London. So with the not so hot quarterback play, which I'm going to assume out of Mariota, they could draft a quarterback. I don't think they will. So subpar quarterback play out of Mariota. Pitts is the only guy there, though, so he's going to get the targets. But how valuable are the targets? Because there's a difference between getting targets from Mahomes with Kelce and getting targets from Mariota. So with Pitts, again, not very excited for him. I think tight end 5's a very fair spot to rank him. I think he could easily outscore that, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he was closer to tight end 10. So again, that's kind of why there's a bit of a dead zone here. Like, if I'm not getting Kelce, Andrews, or Waller, I'm probably just going to wait. Probably just going to be waiting, because I think realistically, if I'm sitting in the 9th round and I can snag Dawson Knox or Zach Ertz, I'd rather do that than pay the higher price in, say, the 5th round for Kyle Pitts. And then by doing that, I'm able to load up on more skill position players before getting the tight end. And that's kind of just my draft strategy. So at number 6, we move to Dalton Schultz, tight end of the Dallas Cowboys. In 2021, he played in 17 games, finishes the tight end number 3.5 PPR and the tight end number 5.5 PPR points per game, despite the Dak Prescott woes. He had 104 targets, 6.1, 6th at tight end, so that's 6.1 per game, 78 receptions, 4.6 per game, 3rd at tight end, 808 receiving yards, 47.5 per game, number 6 at tight end, and 8 total touchdowns, number 5 at tight end. So Dalton Schultz had an excellent season. Again, despite the fact that Dak Prescott was very hit or miss. There were points in the season where Dak Prescott literally looked like he might have been the best quarterback in the NFL. And then you fast forward 5 weeks from that point where this dude looked like fucking fantastic. I've said fantastic a bunch of times, but awesome, amazing. And then he looks like he has no idea how to read he doesn't even know what the fuck the play was called, right? He just looks terrible. Like that arm, whatever he was dealing with last year, clearly impacted him. He was playing bad at points. But even with that, Schultz still was feasted. They get rid of Amari Cooper. They still got Gallup. They still got Lamb. They're probably going to draft the wide receiver because that's just what Jerry Jones does. He gets his rocks off to the offense. He doesn't need to go ahead and go get a quick tug like Mr. Robert Kraft does. He just drafts some wide receiver in the 1st round, and that's good enough for him. So when it comes to Dalton Schultz, the player isn't, Dalton Schultz is no Travis Kelce, but he's not bad either. He's in a really good position to succeed. He was tight end 3 last year, tight end 5 in points per game. So maybe to some people, 6 will be a little bit low. To me, I think that's perfectly fine for Dalton Schultz. That's why also when you get to this range, like I said with Pitts, a lot of these guys could be top 3. And that's what makes the tight end position so interesting. But at the same time, which also makes the tight end position kind of hard to draft, because I like all these guys. Not all of them are going to be top 5, right? We're talking about 12 players. Not all of them can be in the top 5. 5 of them can. Quick math. But yeah, I like Dalton Schultz a lot, but he just doesn't crack the top 5 for me. Maybe by the time we're in August, we see Mariota look like absolute horse shit in the preseason, and then I bounce Pitts down and move Schultz up. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe I move someone else. Maybe, things are going to change from today, April 24th, to August. Things are going to change. But if you're doing your best ball drafts now, I like Dalton Schultz as the 6th tight end off the board. At number 7, we got Dallas Goedert, tight end of the Philadelphia Eagles in 2021. He played in 15 games, finishes the tight end number 10 in half PPR and the tight end number 9 in half PPR points per game. He had 76 targets, 5.1 per game, ranking 17th at tight end, 56 receptions, 3.7 per game, ranking 14th, 830 receiving yards, 55.3 per game, ranking 5th, and 4 total touchdowns, number 12 at the tight end position. So the one thing I know about the Philadelphia Eagles is that they're not sold on Jalen Hurts. But at the same time, while they're not sold in on Jalen Hurts, they're locked and loaded into Jalen Hurts this year. And if I know anything about Jalen Hurts, is that Jalen Hurts loves nothing more than a nice tight end. And he loves Dallas Goedert. And since now Ertz is in Arizona, Ertz was in Arizona for about half of last season after getting traded from the Eagles. We're going to talk about Ertz a little bit later, but Goedert is in a premier situation because not that Hurts is Mahomes, not that Hurts is Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, whatever quarterback you want to say is the best quarterback in the league. He is not that guy. He's not. But he loves to force feed the football down the throat of Dallas Goedert, and he is going to continue to do that. He plays his best when he throws to Goedert. So I think in this Eagles offense in 2022, it's the same head coach, Nick Sirianni, that there should be no reason to believe that Goedert is going to fade away. Tight end 10 last year, 9.5 PPR points per game. Is there anything that is showing me that he is going to regress? No. The only things I see are positive signs, because if Jalen Hurts is getting better, then the targets are going to get better from Hurts to Goedert. Goedert is going to continue to find himself as a number 1 tight end in the league. He was never that before. Zach Ertz was, until Zach Ertz would get hurt, and then Goedert's the one. But now he's the locked and loaded guy there. He's the best target on the team. But Nick, they have Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith's good as well, but I really think that Jalen Hurts plays his best when feeding Mr. Dallas Goedert. And I think in 2022, we're going to see a whole lot of Hurts to Goedert. So at number 8, we move to TJ Hockenson, tight end of the Detroit Lions in 2021. He played in just 12 games, finishing as the tight end 15.5 PPR, but he was the tight end number 6.5 PPR, tied with Darren Waller. So just like Darren Waller, when they were healthy, they were really good for fantasy football, but they weren't healthy for the whole season because they missed a bunch of games. So 83 targets last year, 6.9 per game. Very nice. I like. Number 14 at tight end, 61 receptions, 5.1 per game, 9 at tight end, 583 receiving yards, 48.6 per game, 16th at tight end, and 4th total tugs, 12th at the tight end position. So the Detroit Lions are far from this offense that when you go to sleep, you have a wet dream about, right? You're not dreaming about the Detroit Lions. I don't even think the Detroit Lions fans are dreaming about the Detroit Lions, right? Who gives a fuck about the Lions? Their quarterback situation is Jared Goff, but it could be Malik Willis, could be Kenny Pickett, could be someone else, But I think for at least some of the season, it's going to be Goff. And Goff isn't just this guy that's locked and loaded onto tight end, but he does like to throw the tight end, like he's not opposed to it. And Hockenson has really thrived in Detroit since being drafted there a couple years ago. We have seen improvements every single year in TJ Hockenson's plays since being drafted in 2019 out of Iowa. So if he continues to keep making these small leaps, then tight end 8 is very obtainable for Hockenson. So tight end number 8 for TJ Hockenson for me. At number 9, we're moving to my boy Dawson Knox. One time, if you are with me, of the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. In 2021, Knox played in 15 games, finishes the tight end 8.5 PPR and the tight end number 8.5 PPR points per game, having 71 targets, 4.7 per game, ranking 20th. 49 receptions, 3.3 per game, ranking 18th, 587 receiving yards, 39.1 per game, 15th at tight end, and 9 total touchdowns, 2nd at tight end. Now, there's going to be some people that think, Nick, did you just hear what you just said? He only had 4.7 targets per game, 3.3 catches per game, 39 yards per game. The touchdown category boosted his value. So, since we saw that, since he scored 9 touchdowns, he's probably going to score less in 2022, Nick. He's probably going to fall off the edge of the earth because he's not getting a lot of targets. He's not getting a lot of receptions. He's not getting a lot of receiving yards. Thus, his touchdowns are bound to go down. His touchdowns are bound to go down. Nick, don't you know touchdowns are hard to predict? I agree. Touchdowns are hard to predict. But when you are the number 1 tight end in one of the best offenses in the NFL that now utilizes a tight end with one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, then why the fuck would I believe that Dawson Knox's touchdowns, maybe he goes from 9 to 7. Maybe he's not a top 10 tight end. I got him ranked at number 9. He could also go from 9 touchdowns to 13, right? They lose Cole Beasley. They lose Emmanuel Sanders. They still got Josh Allen. Dawson Knox was not a feature part in this offense. Josh Allen, at the NFL level, was not a big tight end guy until last year. He found his groove with Dawson Knox. They found that excellent connection, and I don't think that connection is going to fade. I think the connection is only going to get better. It's going to go to that 5G LTE. I love Dawson Knox in 2022. I don't think he's going to fall off, and I think he might even score more fucking touchdowns in 2022. So I'm all aboard the Dawson Knox train. Choo-choo. I am the conductor of the Dawson Knox train. At number 10, we move to Zach Ertz, tight end of the Arizona Cardinals in 2021, playing in 17 games, finishing as the tight end number 5 in half PPR, tied with Rob Gronkowski, and the tight end number 10 in half PPR points per game, having 112 targets, 6.6 per game, 3 at tight end, 74 receptions, 4.4 per game, 4 at tight end, 763 receiving yards, 44.9 per game, 9th at tight end, and 5 total touchdowns, 9th at tight end. So there's going to be rumors until Kyler Murray signs that new contract or just becomes buddies with the Arizona Cardinals again, that for some reason Kyler Murray's just done being a Cardinal and he wants out. That's what people are going to keep talking about. On the season, he had 112 targets, 6.6 per game, ranking 3rd, 74 receptions, 4.4 per game, ranking 4th, 763 receiving yards, 44.9 per game, ranking 9th, and 5 total touchdowns, 9th at the tight end position. So like I said when I was talking about Dallas Goedert a little bit ago, Zach Ertz was the main tight end on the Philadelphia Eagles for years. Last year, even starting out on the season, it did seem like Zach Ertz was going to be the guy, and they were going to kind of be splitting time on the offense, but Zach Ertz ultimately was traded to the Arizona Cardinals, which was fantastic. I've said that like 12 times in this video, which was fucking amazing. Beautiful. Chef's kiss for fantasy football because Goddard became valuable, and as did Zach Ertz. And Zach Ertz, it almost seemed like he was kind of losing that pizzazz he had. A couple of years ago, everyone thought of Zach Ertz as one of the top 3 tight ends in the NFL. And then more recently, Zach Ertz kind of didn't fall completely off, but he just wasn't the same guy. But last year in Arizona, it really looked like Zach Ertz was going to be amazing. And he was. He was. And in 2022, with a full year in Arizona, my belief is that Kyler Murray is going to be there. He's going to be starting week 1. Then Zach Ertz has the upside to be top 5. He was top 5 last season. That is because he played in all 17 games, though, which is why we make the distinction between finish on the season and in points per game finish, because I think it is very important to understand that just playing a bunch of games could heavily elevate where you finish at the end of the season. That was the case for Zach Ertz. Does that mean that he was shit? No. He was still tight end 10 in half PPR points per game and wasn't really amazing in Philadelphia. He played so much better in Arizona. So I think a full year in Arizona for Zach Ertz is going to be great for fantasy football. At number 11, we got Hunter Henry, tight end of the New England Patriots. In 2021, he played in 17 games, finishes the tight end number 9 in half PPR, and the tight end number 12 in half PPR points per game. He had 75 targets, 4.4 per game, ranking 18th at tight end, 50 receptions, 2.9 per game, ranking 17th, 603 receiving yards, 35.5 per game, ranking 13th, and 9 total touchdowns, 2nd at the tight end position. Now, Hunter Henry, another one of those tight ends that his numbers were heavily carried by the touchdown total. Now, is Hunter Henry Mac Jones? Is Hunter Henry Mac Jones? That made no sense. Is Hunter Henry's quarterback Pat Mahomes? Is it even Josh Allen, like I was talking about with Dawson Knox? No, it's Mac Jones. But while I dog on Mac Jones in terms of fantasy football, in real life, he's a pretty solid quarterback. While they have both Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, while they backed up the Brinks truck, backed that shit up, gave them both a shit ton of money in free agency last year, Hunter Henry is the clear number 1 tight end on this team. He's going to be the guy getting a lot of the targets here. Could Jonnu Smith have a resurgence and this take is completely wrong? Maybe. But my best bet is that Hunter Henry is still the number 1 tight end on the team and that Hunter Henry is still scoring a bunch of touchdowns. So I love Hunter Henry in 2022. Nick, how do you love him if he's tight end 11? Well, he's coming off the board as like tight end 17, 18. So I think that it's a pretty big steal to get Hunter Henry as my tight end number 11 based upon where he's getting drafted. And closing in the top 12, we got Rob Gronkowski, tight end of the no team right now. He's a free agent. Now, when it comes to Gronk, there are going to be people that will tell you, Nick, you can't draft Gronk because he's not on a team and maybe he just retires. Maybe that is the case, right? But when I'm in a best ball draft right now, I'm going to take as many shots as I can on a tight end who could easily finish top 3 next year. Tight end 5 last year in half PPR. That was Zach Ertz. Tight end number 3 in half PPR points per game. When this motherfucker is playing on the field, he is dominant. They have Mike Evans. They have Chris Godwin. They have these other receivers. And guess what? It doesn't matter because Tampa Bay Tom Brady loves throwing the ball to Gronk. 89 targets, 7.4 per game, 11th. 55 receptions, 4.6 per game, 15th. 802 receiving yards, 66.8 per game, 7th. And 6 total touchdowns, 7th. So why would you not draft Gronk? What is making people believe that he's just magically going to retire? Maybe he does. Maybe he does. Maybe he wants to ride off into the sunset. But with Tom Brady back, you would think what Gronk's doing right now is like, oh, I don't want to do any of this training camp bullshit. I don't want to come back until August. So I'm just not going to sign. People are going to get worried. And then his ADP is going to keep falling, keep drifting down. And you can still keep hammering drafting Gronk because he's going to come back. He's going to come back. That's just my belief. He's just not wanting to do any of this trading bullshit. He's like, whatever. Just let me come back for week 1. That's probably what he's doing. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure you do hit that like button as well as that subscribe button. And let me know who your top 5 ranked tight ends are for the 2022 fantasy football season. Again, please make sure you guys do check out our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for up to a $100 first match deposit bonus. I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, goodbye.